Please sit down. Are we meeting again? No.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Was it online? Was
Yes,
that
sir.
online? Yes, Priyanka. Okay, I thought as much. Okay. So, happy Women's Day.
Thank you, sir.
Is it not unfair that it is always Women's Day, there is no Men's Day? Is there any Men's Day?
So I remember reading about the International Men's Day as well. However, I'm not aware which.
But
day
nobody
it was.
celebrates, nobody gives us flowers when we walk. Is it not discriminatory?
So I believe that while we should celebrate men as well, however, the significance of celebrating Women's Day is a little bit different. It is because of the historic discrimination that the women faced, due to which we need to celebrate them. We need to recognize the efforts that are made by the women, and hence celebrating them on a particular day is important. So I believe that women need to be celebrated a little bit more considering the historic past.
So, how can we empower women?
So empowerment of women has to be multidimensional. So firstly, education of women is the first priority. Secondly, sir, financial empowerment of women has to be focused upon. Thirdly, sir, technological empowerment of women is important in the current day and age. And fourthly, sir, health of women is increasingly important. So health empowerment is also important. And lastly, sir, it is also important that social empowerment of women takes place, where all sections of the society are sensitized towards the attitude that they should have towards women, so that we can have a safe society for the functioning of women. And it is.
What do you mean by safe society? Why do you call the society unsafe?
Sir, I believe by safe society I mean that women should be able to participate in all walks of life without being afraid of any crimes that may occur towards them. So firstly, if I have to talk about the increasing incidents of crimes against women that occur in public places. Secondly, sir, the increasing instances of cyber stalking and cyber incidents which are occurring towards women. And thirdly, sir, I also, by safety of women, I also mean the mental safety and security which can be provided by the laws, which should not be discriminatory. And hence, a multidimensional approach towards safety has to be brought about. I say that the society is unsafe for women because we have not been able to provide that kind of safety and security currently, by which women can participate in all walks of life.
Listening to you, I find that my wife is a very disempowered woman. That all women in this country are simply objects, and they don't seem to have any empowerment, and nobody gives them any respect that they deserve. Is that so?
No, sir, absolutely not. That is not what I mean.
Okay. All right. Anyway, all that is required. Do you think the UCC, so far as women's empowerment is concerned, was a UCC of Uttarakhand, was a good step?
Yes, sir, partially it was a good step because it prohibited second marriage, bigamy was abolished, certain discriminatory practices such as that of halala and iddat, which is practiced in Islam law, those were also abolished. However, certain restrictive provisions regarding the live-in relationships were brought about, and to that extent, I wouldn't call it to be a very comprehensive law.
Why so?
So, firstly, the registration of live-in relationships, which was brought about for women, regarded that the registrar has to conduct inquiry into the personal lives of women, and secondly, sir, certain section of women which fall under below 21 years of age, they also have to take the consent of their parents, and hence it amounts to moral policing to a certain extent, which is why I believe that it is not as empowering as it could have been.
So you mean to say, if a 16-year-old girl decides to live with a man, that's okay with you and you have no objection to that?
Sir, I wouldn't say that I am in any capacity to object to that. However, I believe that...
Are you aware that in Assam, such relationships by a particular community A person 50 years of age, he, he says, we were friends, we were in a live-in relationship, I was in a live-in relationship with 12 years of 13 years of age girl, old girl. She became pregnant and then we married. So would you justify such live-in relationships? Will it not give them a legal sanctity?
Yes, sir. I agree
Is this
that.
not a safeguard against exploitation of women, registration?
Yes, sir. I believe that registration of such live-in relationships might be a safeguard to a certain extent. Sir, I believe that the law does provide recognition to live-in relationships, and definitely it will provide safeguard to crimes which may occur against women. However, sir, I believe that there should be additional safeguards which should exist so that such consent is not vitiated. Because in the current society, providing just a legal safeguard without any additional mechanisms to ensure that their freedom is taken away is missing. And so,
Okay. Uh, there have been a number of news. My last question to you, being a law graduate, Kejriwal has been refusing to appear before the ED despite 8 summonses, right? Do you think this trend will bring about lawlessness and lesser compliance from common citizen also by for appearing before the law enforcement agencies?
yes, sir, I agree that being the chief minister of the state of Delhi, he does hold certain amount of duty towards the citizens to set the right kind of role modeling towards the citizens, and hence I believe that he should be appearing before the ED in a timely fashion.
All right, thank you.
Priyanka, you are working with Sports Authority of India,
Yes,
right? Can you brief us about your job profile there?
sure, sir. Sir, I'm currently working in the TOPS division, which is Target Olympic Podium Scheme in the Sports Authority of India as an assistant director. So my work profile is to ensure that the TOPS athletes, which are enumerated by the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, they are provided all support that they need in certain specific disciplines, such as that of table tennis. I also make sure that all the proposals which come from the athletes, they are put to the Mission Olympic Cell, which is constituted for that purpose, and they are provided due consideration and approval. And lastly, sir, we also provide support to the National Sports Federations, and I ensure scrutiny of the proposals which come from National Sports Federation towards sponsorship of some teams or for certain events, etc.
Okay. Odisha
Yes, sir.
is known to support sporting activity in a big way,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
What sport is special to Odisha, and what are the reasons?
Yes, sir. Sir, hockey has been special to Odisha, and the reasons for the same are, sir, Odisha has seen a lot of major participation of tribal athletes from our state in the national and international teams of the country, and there has been special impetus due to this reason that Odisha government is providing. Because firstly, sir, sports as a model of development will have a multiplier effect on the economy, and secondly, sir, it will also lead to tribal development, which was our initial focus why we started doing it. Because athletes from tribal districts such as that of Sundargarh have been participating there, and more role modeling effect has been created by participation of certain athletes like Mr. Dilip Tirki.
Okay. I was seeing your extracurriculars. You were awarded best paper for presentation on plea bargaining. What was the concept behind this?
Yes, sir. So the concept behind the paper was firstly to explain the concept of plea bargaining and compare it against US system and how they have been utilizing it in a better manner. Secondly, sir, how we can improve our system in a better manner and make it more efficient. And in that process, I also try to highlight the challenges that our concept of plea bargaining is facing in our Indian system. And lastly, certain drawbacks of the system as well, of the plea bargaining system in the Indian scenario. However, the conclusion was to provide a constructive system of plea bargaining which can be utilized in our current legal system.
Okay. My final question to you is regarding your law background. How far do you think collegium system needs to be reformed, and in what way?
Sir, I believe that collegium system suffers from the major drawback of lack of transparency, and hence it needs to be reformed. So certain changes that I would like to propose to that system is, so firstly, the qualification or the eligibility criteria for choosing the judges, they should be laid down in a coherent manner. So secondly, the minutes of meeting which take behind the selection of judges, they should be publicized. Thirdly, sir, the system should be made such that any grievances which occur from such selection, they could also be addressed and redressed, such as that of a complaints mechanism can also be instituted.
Was this NJAC a good step?
Sir, NJAC was a progressive step. However, it suffered from certain drawbacks because it provided government a say in the selection of judges, and therefore the Supreme Court held in the 4 judges case that it affected the independence of judiciary. However, NJAC could have been also reformed to a certain extent by giving the casting vote to the Chief Justice of India and making sure that they have the final say over the matter, and that is how NJAC could have been a system which could have been implemented in our country.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Priyanka, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now, please tell us what is the principle of natural justice? I'll start with your subject.
Yes, sir. So, principles of natural justice are the set of rules which have been in place to ensure that due process of law is followed and that the procedure is just, fair, and reasonable. They are a set of 3 laws. Firstly, that rule against bias, which says that there should be no personal interest of the judge. Secondly, sir, no person can be a judge in his own case, which is the second principle. And the third principle is that of reasoned decision, that every decision should have proper reasons and they should follow the decision as well in the same order.
Now, taking cue from the second tenet, do you think that the collegium system is based against the principle of natural justice?
Sir, I believe that the collegium system is a system of appointment of judges, and I don't think that it is against the system of principle of natural justice, because the judges themselves are appointing for the judiciary, which is an independent institution, and they are supposed to abide by certain principles, because whatever decisions that they are taking, it is open to public scrutiny, and so I don't think it is against the principle of natural justice.
You yourself admitted that there is lack of transparency. That is one very basic issue. So, based on that, and also a person trying his own case, judges being appointed by a collegium of their own colleagues. So, how far, like, this is totally against principle of natural justice? And also the reason that they are giving that this is balance of power. So what balance of power do you think that judges appointed through this principle, they are tilting the balance of power in favor of judiciary?
I agree, sir. To that extent, I agree that it is against the principles of natural justice that such an opaque system is being followed. However, like I suggested, that if the process is made transparent, then it can definitely be in compliance with principles of natural justice itself. The very act of judges appointing the judges, while it is being very unique to India, I won't consider it as being against the principle of natural justice, but the current scheme of things, which is an opaque process that is being followed, that is definitely to a certain extent against the principles of
Now,
natural
my
justice.
next question follows from indirectly this basic concept. Now, the thing which is happening, you have the electoral bond. It was started as a way to reform donation to political parties. This was around 2018. So 5 years have lapsed. After that, suddenly, at the time of present election, the Supreme Court decides that no, this is invalid, unconstitutional. Now, why in the first place this was being treated as something to reform the political donation? and now it is not being treated. What is the main point, that is making it illegal, and why for 5 years it was not?
Sir, the electoral bonds were introduced because to prevent the inflow of black money into the economy via electoral funding.
Now, please tell us, what is the method of inflow of money to political parties by industries? It has devised a process of that inflow. Okay, electoral bond. Prior to this, there was no process. Okay, so now if it is discarded, what will be the process to be followed?
Yes, sir. I believe that now there is a vacuum which exists, which needs to be filled. And I believe that if we institute the right to know of the citizens, along with
Tell me, when was this right to know law passed? Because I was involved with this, when I was in the Ministry of Personnel, Right to Information. There was a special committee, So therefore, I would like to know, when was it, and what was the concept of law prior to this, when right to know was not there in our country?
So, right to know or right to information was instituted by the RTI Act 2005.
2005.
Yes,
So
sir.
prior to 2005, on what basis, what was the criteria to judge the validity or suitability of law? Because right to know was not there, right to information was not there, but still laws were there. So were they illegal? Because this is the only question, that right to information is violated by this law. So it has been taken. What is the main stand of the Supreme Court in discarding this electoral bond thing?
So, right to know has been protected under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution, which is freedom of speech and expression. And hence, even without that law, the Supreme Court in certain cases had protected or provided that right under 19(1)(a) itself. And Supreme Court, while deciding this case also, has reiterated that this right flows from 19(1)(a) itself. And it is perhaps a part of the basic structure of the Constitution.
Do you think that Supreme Court, to balance government position on NJSC or its revised forum for judicial appointment, is trying to have this kind of process as a blackmail to the government? This is a fight between executive and judiciary, and this is the way, this is the result. Is it possible? Because you are studying, you are an expert in law, so how do we view this? I would like to know your view on this.
Sir, I don't think that it is a blackmail against the judiciary. Our system is that of...
Against the executive.
Against the executive, sorry sir. Against the executive. Because sir, our system is that of checks and balances in that of separation.
I think we have to stop.
You can complete your answer.
You can complete
Yes,
and
sir.
then we...
Sir, our system is that of checks and balances in that of separation of powers. And hence, even if judiciary and executive are working in their fields, the judiciary's job is to ensure that executive doesn't transgress its power and transgress the constitutional limits. And therefore, by giving this judgment, judiciary has played its role of that of ensuring a check on the executive.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Priyanka, some questions on foreign policy, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
I will make a statement. Let me see how you react. It seems that India's foreign policy is very focused on the permanent members of the United Nations and a few other countries like Germany, Japan. So, how would you like to see Indian foreign policy adapting to today's multipolar situation? Do you feel that we should give attention to some other issues or some other countries or some other regions, and why?
Sir, I believe that our foreign policy is dynamic and it has been evolving. And currently, we are focusing on a lot of other countries, such as that of India's recent venture with Greece and that of UAE. And, sir, also India's focus on the Pacific Islands as well. And India has also been vocal about the issues of the global south. And so I believe we are moving towards a very multi-vector policy where we are trying to address a lot of countries other than the permanent members.
Have you heard of Act East policy?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, could you tell me something about Act East policy?
Yes, sir. So, Act East policy is India's policy with special reference to the ASEAN countries, and it is a policy where we are trying to enhance our strategic relations with the ASEAN countries, our economic relations with the ASEAN countries as well, and it is mostly one of the ways by which we are diversifying our interests in the global region.
The chief minister of your state, Orissa, and his father were closely linked with one country, right? In the east. Are you aware of that?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware of that.
Have you heard of Megawati Sukarnoputri?
Yes, sir. Indonesia.
Huh?
Indonesia.
Indonesia,
Yes,
right.
sir.
Mr. Biju Patnaik, he
Yes, sir.
saved Sukarno,
Yes, sir.
yeah, from the Dutch invaders,
Yes, sir.
the colonialists. If you were, campaigning for India's United Nations seat, which regions would you focus on and why? I mean, you already started on that track, but if you could be more explicit.
So, like I said, that I would focus on the global south, and
That's too general,
Yes,
It
sir.
sounds nice to say, but it's not very clear.
so I think focusing on the African countries
Right.
would be important.
Why?
So, because African countries also lack representation in the United Nations, and they also we are also exploring our economic interests in Africa, and it is, and hence I believe that having them on our side would be extremely important to pitch for our.
You said
seat.
Pacific Island countries. How many Pacific Island countries? FIPIC, India is
Yes, sir.
has
Yes, sir.
initiated FIPIC.
Yes, sir.
How many countries would be there?
Sir, I don't remember the exact number.
Africa, how many countries would be there?
Sir, I don't
20,
remember.
30, 40, 50, 60?
So it was approximately, sir, I don't remember.
Central Asia,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Anything we need to do with Latin America?
Yes, sir. Latin America collaboration can also be developed.
Yeah.
A collaboration with Caribbean islands can also be explored.
Yeah. Last question, which is take into account or benefiting from your legal insights, is globally we are not able to agree on a definition of terrorism, right? India in 1996 initiated a draft comprehensive convention, on
Yes, sir.
international terrorism. But why it has not had any traction since 1996?
Yes, sir. Sir, India has been pushing for the CCIT very strongly. However, countries such as that of USA and several other countries have not been accepting the definition of terrorism, which has been the roadblock. It is because, sir, to have an agreed definition of terrorism brings a lot of challenges, because it should also include state-sponsored terrorism in its ambit. It should also include the acts which are emanating in one territory but having impacts on the other. And lastly, sir, in the current domain of cyber terrorism, which has cross-country impacts and can occur from one state and have impacts on the other, it is difficult to define limits. However, sir, I believe that countries should have the political will to come on a same page and push for the CCIT, which is the need of the hour.
But that sounds again dangerous. State-sponsored terror, that anybody couldn't target India, particularly P5 countries. Would you give them that kind of opportunity? State-sponsored terrorism, that's an extremely wide ambit.
Yes, sir.
Don't you think terrorism, when it takes place, the world knows it's terror, right?
Yes,
So why obfuscate it by talking of state terror? People will say in Jammu and Kashmir you do terror, Manipur you do terror.
So, with state-sponsored terrorism, I mean that terrorism which has been specifically propagated by a country against the other, such as that of that emanating in Pakistan, where certain terror groups are receiving terror financing from the government and perpetrating certain acts against another state. So that has to come within the ambit of terrorism as well, because that is
Okay.
because state should be given liability, should take liability for that.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. What about the homegrown terrorism? Should there be no definition for it?
Sir, our current Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita has the definition of terrorism. Terrorism
Okay.
has been included as
Which
well.
other law has the definition?
So UAPA also has.
So you didn't mention that India has evolved a definition of terrorism.
Yes, sir.
You didn't mention when he was discussing that we have evolved a definition, we have codified it in 2 laws.
Yes, sir.
And the world needs to agree to a common definition of crime. I thought as a law student you could begin. How do you think you did?
So could have done better.
Like?
Sir, certain issues I got stuck with.
Like?
The collegium issue, I believe that I got stuck
Yes.
with. So that I could have tackled in a better manner.
What could be better?
Sir, I believe that I should have stuck to the stand that it is against the principles of natural justice.
So you are contradicting yourself now. You took the stand for judges choose judges. And you said it's unique to India.
Yes, sir.
It is, ये तो अपवाद है. The only is an exception that is taking place only in this country. No other country allows. And can you think it is totally against the principles of natural justice? Can you appoint somebody without notifying the vacancies?
No, sir.
Can a lawyer with 30 years practice apply for it, who's practicing in the High Court? Can he apply, or a few families will only be picked up? So, NJAC was given a burial even without trying it.
Yes, sir.
So that shows and you say and then you said executive. The judges have been able to stop the executive outreach. What about their own outreach?
Yes, sir.
So who will police the judiciary? Nobody, except themselves. So think over these questions.
Yes, sir.
And when you frame your response, don't rush to it. Okay? I would suggest that please do it. Even the retired judges, Supreme Court judges have said the collegium has not been given fair trial. So think of those things also and frame. Otherwise, I think you were very good. You articulate very well. You are convincing. You are knowledgeable about law, everything. And but you tend to give very long answers.
Yes, sir.
Right? You need to be precise, focused, because you have only 25 minutes. You can spend those 25 minutes in 2 questions or give opportunity to everyone to show that you are more than these 2 questions or 3 questions, right? It is up to you.
Yes, sir.
So make the best utilization of the time by being focused, to the point replies, and being concise. Okay?
Yes.
Rest, otherwise, when is the interview?
So next week.
Next week. And how many mocks you have had?
So this is my first offline mock. But I have had certain online mocks because I was preparing for
Yes, online mock I have had with you.
Yes, sir.
And I think I must have rated you very good even in that. You are excellent, right? You are excellent, and just limit the questions. Like if you continue arguing on a subject, you can say this is what I think.
You were not giving a new point, no? You were continuing with one argument which was never ending, and now you are admitting that this was
Repeating without adding value.
So if you repeat, there should be value into it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you stop.
If you have incremental value to add to continue the argument, do it. If you don't, then let it not push.
It's not, there is lot of undercurrent in this issue, and there is certainly a rift between executive and judiciary, and they are playing their own games in their ways.
You could always wriggle out, right?
Yeah.
You could always wriggle out saying, okay, this is what my knowledge is. I need to, I will look at all
That
these
could be
aspects.
one base.
I will look at all these aspects.
Yes, sir.
But as of now, based on whatever I have acquired knowledge during my education, this is what I think.
This could be one probable question to you, because law is your academic subject and also optional. So this could be a certain question to you.
Yes, sir.
So you prepared very well on this.
But you are otherwise very good. You have any questions to ask?
No, sir, I just wanted to ask about this collegium issue itself because have been in two minds about this issue myself and I face a little bit problem in understanding what my opinion should be. So because Supreme Court has held in its decision, so should I stick with the Supreme Court's decision, which is the status quo, which has disbanded the NJSC, because question may come, what about independence commission?
No, you see, be independent. Forget your profession.
You have a long way to go to the judiciary. Now you have already come, suppose you join law, you have already joined administration.
Think from the citizen's perspective.
Yeah.
Should I decide कि all bureaucrats should decide who will be a bureaucrat? कि अच्छा मेरे चाचे के लड़के ने यार अच्छा है वो टॉपर है यार उसको भर्ती कर लेते हैं इसमें. Can we do it? We should do it. Why should you come for interviews? So I'll say कि ओ अच्छा प्रियंका यार मैं मिला था बड़ी अच्छी लड़की है यार भर्ती कर देते हैं ये लो इशू करो एक उसको ऑर्डर. So collegium is like that कि 5 people decide to do whatever they want to do. Now what is the natural justice? How other people are being recruited? Do the people who are recruited as judges, is there any Supreme Court judge who is a career judge? No, there is not even a single. Nobody elevates to the Supreme Court. It is only the lawyers' gang that goes to high courts and then Supreme Courts. So you have to think that fair, natural justice, fair in what are the practices? Your response could be that NJAC should be given a fair trial, and if any modifications in that are required, then yes. And then they will ask what modifications? Then you should be prepared for that.
Even NJAC is on other extreme and collegium. There should be a meeting ground.
हाँ वही हम कह रहे हैं कि then you can suggest modifications.
Yes.
NJAC should be tried with some modifications. Then you should be ready with those modifications. I think that would make a better. She has already.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Right?
Understood.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Otherwise, all the very best. You are ready for the interview. You should be there. You should be selected. You are very good.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Be relaxed and confident.
Just be relaxed. You have been confident. It's your first offline,
Yes, sir.
but you are absolutely ready for the interview. Okay.
Thank you.
All the best.
All the best.
Okay.